Good morning, Kahal Kadosh. Shavua Tov Umevorach. Today, Tuesday, the 24th day of Sivan, corresponding to June 16th, 2020. Today's dedication of the class is sponsored Le'ilui Nishmat, in loving memory of all those that regretfully perish through the pandemic in the past few months. May all of them, their neshama, be elevated in Gan Eden. May their families have a consolation. And Be'ezat Hashem, all those affected by this condition, may Hashem give them refuah shelema as well. What a beautiful gesture of our anonymous sponsor for today's class. I was asked to speak about a few moments, not a long time, but a few moments, on an interesting pasuk in the beginning of today's parasha. The Torah already is telling us in the beginning of Parashat Shelach the mission that will turn to be unfortunate for Am Israel. They send the Meragelim and they come back with a very derogatory comment about the land of Israel, with the exception of two great tzaddikim, Yahshua bin Nun and Caleb ben Yefuneh. Yahshua bin Nun, the student of Moshe Rabbeinu from the tribe of Ephraim, and Caleb ben Yefuneh from the tribe of Yehuda. Interesting enough, this coming Shabbat, which will be Shabbat Mevarchim, the Shabbat that we welcome and announce the upcoming Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, the Aventura that we are going to read, it also deals with the concept of the Meragelim, with the concept of the spies, but not in the time of Moshe, but actually in the time of Yahshua bin Nun. As the Aventura begins of the book of Yahshua, Vayishlach Yahshua bin Nun min hashitim, shenayim anashim meragelim. Yahshua sent two spies to scout the land of Israel, starting from the city of Yericho, which was the first city that it was conquered under the leadership of Yahshua bin Nun. The conquering of the land of Israel took 7 years, plus the division of the land of Israel took another 7 years, and that's basically, historically speaking. Who were the two spies that Yahshua bin Nun sent to scout the land of Israel? Caleb ben Yefuneh, the same Caleb that 40 years earlier went on a mission with him and the rest of the leaders of Am Israel. Round two, Caleb ben Yefuneh, together with Pinchas, the famous Pinchas that later on Parashat Balak and Parashat Pinchas will be talking about his actions and his dedication to sanctify Hashem's name and to protect the well-being of Am Israel. But we all know very well that if you look in the beginning of the parasha, the pasuk says, Lemate Ephraim Hosea bin Nun. That is the name given to Hosea. At the end of the first aliyah, the pasuk says, Vayikra Moshe leHosea bin Nun Yehoshua. Moshe Rabbeinu changes the name from Hosea to Yehoshua. So what's going on here? So for that, I think that is important to let the Gemara in Masechet Sotah, the way Rashi quotes and many other sources, what exactly happened here. So the Gemara in Sotah 34b, if you want to check it out later, discusses this topic, and the Gemara explains Yahshua was a student of Moshe Rabbeinu. So if Yehoshua is a student of Moshe Rabbeinu, so is expected that Yahshua will follow in the footsteps of his teacher, the one and only Moshe Rabbeinu. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, what if Yehoshua doesn't agree with the mission? What if Yehoshua may come back and say, you know what? The land is not good, Haz v'shalom. And Yahshua perhaps could have good intentions. What could have been the intentions of Yahshua? Listen, if the prophecy from last week's Torah portion, Perasha ve'ha'alotecha. When the Torah tells us that there were 2 men out of the 72 that stayed behind and they were giving prophecies. Do you remember what was the prophecies that they gave? I read quickly, and it says, they mitnabeim ba'machane, they were giving prophecies in the camp of Am Israel. Very simple. They say, Moshe Rabbeinu will pass away, and Yahshua will lead the Jewish people to Eretz Israel. So Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid that maybe Yahshua, in his great love to Moshe Rabbeinu, may jeopardize the mission L'Shem Shamayim. And that's why if you look in the Gemara, in Masechet Sotah, Moshe Rabbeinu prayed upon him and switched the name from Hosea to Yehoshua. And the Gemara explains, Yah, meaning to say Hashem's name, Yah, Yod Ke, same amount of letters of words of Birkat Kohanim and part of Hashem's blessings to Am Israel. May God come to your rescue or to your assistance, and may He free you from the advice of the Meragelim. This is how the Gemara in Sotah discusses this. But I'm sure the Kahal knows, and I think that is the time to say this, that this letter of Yehoshua bin Nun, it wasn't a simple letter. The letter added to Yehoshua was the letter Yod. And I'm sure you may have heard this before, but I repeat it just to remind myself. The Yod of Yehoshua originally was posted in the letter of Sarai, in the word of Sarai. I'm sure everybody remembers in Sefer Bereshit, our founding fathers, Avraham and Sarah, their name was not Avraham and Sarah. The name was Avram and Sarai. So to the letter of Avram, to the word of Avram, as we say in our daily prayers in Vaybarech David. I'm sure you're familiar with this line. Every day in our Shaharit prayer, and the Halakha says that it's very important that we read the following sentence in the proper way. The Gemara says, Atau Hashem, the Pasuk says, Atau Hashem Elokim asher baharta ve'Avram ve'oseto me'ur kasdim. You have chosen Avram and you redeem him from the fire of Kasdim. Besamta shemo Avraham. It's imperative that when we read this line, we make the distinction between Avram and Avraham. Why was there a need to change the name of Avram to Abraham and Sarai to Sarah? Short answer. There is a concept in Jewish law known as Shinui Hashem. Shinui Hashem literally means the changing of a name. There are certain circumstances in life that allows a person's name to be changed, especially when we're dealing with medical conditions or, God forbid, names given originally that were not proper, that were not suitable, that were not even kosher, etc. So in that case, the Torah allows and the Halakha allows to have the name change. And this is what happened with Abraham and Sarah. Avram and Sarai, based on the astrology and whatever had in those days, their mazal was not conducive to conceive children. And that's why we say, Meshane makom, Meshane mazal. Many times a person relocates, or a person changes the name, or the person changes their actions, their mazal get improved. And we saw it, that Abraham and Sarah were able to conceive and give birth to Ishaq Avinu alav shalom. So we added the he to Abraham, and we added the he to Sarai. But the yod of Abraham got a bonus. He received a letter extra in the middle of his name, Avraham Avinu is super happy. But Sarah's name, the Yod of Sarah, when she was removed from the name of Sarai to Sarah, what exactly happened here? The He was added to Sarai's name, and what happened with the Yud? So our Sefarim tells us that the letter Yod stood up in front of the Almighty, and the letter said to the Almighty, "Dear God, you evicted me from the life of a righteous woman to put a letter He that is half of my value." That's the numerical aspect in Torah known as Gematriot. The He equals number 5, the Yod equals number 10. And we all know very, very well how powerful the number 10 is in Judaism. 10 commandments, 10 sefirot, 10 people for a minyan, etc. So we understand. But Olam says to the letter Yod, do not worry. I have a promotional package available coming your way. What is it? The Yod asked. You are going to be the letter in the name of the follower of Moshe Rabbeinu, Yahshua bin Nun. And I'm going to left a small piece of chicken, small amount of chicken, or small amount of beef in the bone of the meat. So how do you take care of that neshama? So you're going to tell me that only what I eat makes a tikkun, and when I don't eat does not make a tikkun? The Ben Ish Chai says, no, relax. It says the Ben Ish Chai that when a person recites the final beracha on the food, and the bones with the leftover meat or the leftover food is there in front of the person, that is the tikkun of that neshama. Yani, so what the Ben Ish Chai says, can you imagine? Now writes and superficially, the topic of divorce is avoided at all cost if you really can. Defunding the police. You know what does it mean? Defunding the police? Basically, taking away funding from the police. And again, we're not discussing the world that can change the spirit of people. This was said by the great Rav Shach, Alav Shalom, a great Rosh Yeshiva from one of the greatest yeshivas in Bnei Brak,